Ask Me Anything by Redical. I am a correctional officer at a max security jail. Ask me anything. Some info. I have been employed for 4 months. I kind of want to do an Ask Me Anything now and another maybe when I've been there for a year. This is a throwaway obviously. I can absolutely verify depending on how a moderator wants to do it. I refuse to take a picture of my uniform. Against our AOM to take photographs of our uniforms and vehicles without the sheriff officer's permission. I'm on probation and that can get me fired. But I will take pics of my ID card or my badge I guess and block out some of it. As long as it isn't posted on the thread for all to see. We are considered max security by inmates because of our strict rules. County population is around 145,000. Got from Wiki. Took some numbers off. The jail typically holds about 300, not counting our work release annex building. People. We also hold federal inmates whose charges can range from speeding, being an illegal immigrant to murder. All houses together. During the day staffing is around 18 officers. At night you need a minimal of 15 officers including 1 female. The jail holds anything from overnight drunks, people who don't pay child support to pre-trial murderers. Just trying to add some clarification. I work at jail. I put max security into quotations because that's what the inmates call it. There are many inmates who have been into the prisons and say that our jail is bullshit the way it's ran because they don't get any privileges and are treated like dogs as they put it. The issues of being on the front page. Everyone eats you alive. I still love you Reddit. Thank you everyone who participated. Again I apologize for the dong title being misleading. I need to grab an hour of rest. I had fun. Is prison rape an issue? If yes, would you say that there is some kind of rape culture going on in prisons? How often does it occur? I've looked through old reports and in our jail I've only seen 1 rape to have occurred that was reported. I definitely think it happens though. Just not really at our facility because they have absolutely no privacy anywhere. Cameras pointed at everything except into their cells. What would happen if someone you knew, relative, close friend, got put into the jail? Would there be some conflict of interest? Would they be moved to a different one because of it? Nope. We have a very high-ranking officer in the jail whose brother is in and out and was recently sentenced and is now in prison. They get no special treatment. I've had to strip search people I've gone to high school with. Do you know any of the inmates well enough to honestly like him/her as a person? Huge no and will get you fired. So the answer is number. Worst experience? Nothing real terrible to be honest. I'm kind of known as inmate friendly. Worst experience for me would probably be thinking when I was on FTO training and I had someone who was completely refusing all of my verbal orders. I then told him he needed to lock in, go to his cell, and he balled up his fist and was showing that he was getting aggressive. After locking the entire section and he complied and it was over. It was a terrible experience because I was brand new, and the inmates know it, and I was really nervous about giving someone orders when I worked 4 years of retail. Have you experienced or have your co-workers told you about any legendary incidents that have happened in the prison? Duck yeah, ton of them. I fear I cannot tell them properly but here's one I kind of remember. One time an inmate broke a sprinkler and caused sprinklers to go off in an entire section, and that water comes down like crazy. All the officers have no clue what to do really and the inmates and there is talking shit and ready to fight the officers who are going to respond. So the supervisor comes back because nobody knows what to do and he tells the inmate to go to his cell. The inmate talks some shit and refuses to go to his cell. The supervisor asks someone to cut off the water so they can start preparing to go in. Then the inmate says something like duck your wife to beach. Then the supervisor immediately asks for the door into the room to be open. At that moment the inmate, from what they say, literally dove into his cell in fear of the supervisor coming in and whoever was controlling doors closed the doors to pretty much protect him. Then the supervisor left the water on for about 3 hours and the inmates just sat there and soaked. We always hear about how scary prison is, rife with gangs and violence. What percentage of the population is problematic? Can a normal guy survive there without getting involved with a gang or hurt? How do they cope? What percentage of people become more hardened because of their sentence and what percentage seem to be on a positive trajectory of reform? Could a warden who is a patron of the arts really allow an actor to come in to research a role by staying at the prison? Why are you on probation? All new hires are on 2-year probation. They can fire you for anything. Ever seen any rape? Jail rape needs to be talked about. What are your rules on use of violence? Same as anywhere. To protect yourself or another person. These days there are too many cameras around for ways of old, like you see in movies. I hear a lot of stories of how it used to be, and it's definitely not how it used to be. Are you happy with your job? Would you recommend it to other people? How much do you get paid? And what are the other benefits? How did you find your job? What can you tell us about your day-to-day routine as a correctional officer? Did anything dangerous ever happen to you or anyone else around you in these 4 months? What are the amenities like for the inmates? Do they vary based on the severity of the charges? Happy with my job? I'm considering staying here for a career. It's not fun and it can become a hellhole because of the negative place it is. I get paid $42,000 a year with step increases that don't come because the county government is broke, and raises when you get promoted that are significant. I found my job through a pamphlet, obviously. Day to day basically I'm either in a chair controlling doors and watching cameras, or I'm on a block where there are different sections that house different threat levels of inmates. Amenities. They get 2 showers in each section, which can hold like 40 plus people. There is 1 TV per section, which causes the most problems. They can order snacks off of a list once a week, which include what you'd find in the candy section of a 7-11. They have video conference visiting in each section because there are no face-to-face visits. Also some phones in each area. Edito and I get bizarre benefits. Life insurance, dental, health insurance, the whole deal. It's great. If you saw another guard sneaking contraband, cell phone, drugs, whatever, into the prison or committing abusive acts towards a prisoner, would you report the incident or would you overlook it? Would the thought of being labeled a snitch by the other guards affect your decision? I definitely would talk to them about it first, even though it's not in my personality. I would go to another officer about it, and then if it seems to be an ongoing issue, yeah, I'd handle it. Can you please explain the difference between prison and jail? Jail. We can only incarcerate people for up to 1 year and 1 month, I believe. Something along those lines. We also hold people pre-trial and have like a drunk tank and intake. Prison. Sentenced criminals with longer than 2-year sentences. There is no intake at a prison. If you get arrested, you aren't going to prison because they only house sentenced inmates. 1. How long has it taken the inmates to get used to you? 2. Did any challenge your authority when you first started? Apologies for the SP comments on this one. 3. What is your favorite section of the jail to be in? 4. What is the biggest issue that co-workers will complain about? 5. Can you expand on the strict rules, please? Thanks. 1. The first day I walked around the jail, I was in a suit and they would stand at the windows and stare me down, trying to be intimidating. Now they are pretty friendly with me. It took about 2 weeks after being off training for them to start feeling me out. 2. Yes, there was an inmate while I was on training that refused a verbal order I gave him a few times. I told him to go to his cell and he wouldn't. The entire section had to be locked down for him to comply. He ended up being confined to his cell for about 10 days. Now he doesn't give me any problems, lol. 3. None really. I like to be moved around. A good day for me is 4 hours of controlling doors in the jail and 4 days walking the blocks inside where the inmates are. 4. Put it this way, everyone at the jail is there temporarily, even the people who have been working there for 10 years. That's the biggest complaint. It's like a trap. You get a good starting salary and the pay increase makes it nearly impossible to leave and continue your lifestyle. Going from an CO to a police officer can be a $12,000 pay decrease that you won't regain until being a police officer for like 7-8 years. Are shivs shanks? Sorry for my obvious whiteness. A common thing in prison? Or is this typical overblown Hollywood drama? Shanks are common in prison and many jails, but not our jail in particular. The prison in which inmates go to when they are sentenced for more than 2 years talk about stabbing and shanks all the time. We combat this by shaking down inmate cells every shift every day. The cell they sleep in isn't theirs. We are just letting them use it. Their property box isn't theirs. We are just letting them use it. Same with the blankets, sheets, etc. We search it pretty often. The only thing that is theirs is the cookies and soups that they can order. Shanks are found, but I've never seen one since I've began working. Someone was found with a piece of mirror that could be used as a shank about a month ago though. Do you think that, as Portugal did, legalizing drugs and regulating them in USA would reduce jail populations? Secondly, what's the worst inmate experience you've had to deal with? Thanks. Let's remember drugs are decriminalized in Portugal, not legalized. They don't go to jail for having them, but they can't buy them at their local store like you can in Amsterdam. Do you feel that working in a prison has affected your political views? I spent 2 years working as support staff in a supermax, and the biggest takeaway for me is that social programs are really necessary to a stable society. I am fond of many libertarian concepts, but I can't fully buy into the ideology after my experience working in corrections. Is there a man by the name of Andy Duffrance there, and does he have a large pin-up poster in his cell? You may wanna check that out. Edit. Spelling. Can't hang shit on the walls, bro. Have you formed a good relationship, even a friendship, with any of the inmates? I imagine some are more cooperative than others anyway. Have you ever heard of any corruption amongst your fellow employees? Or is it typical overblown Hollywood bullshit? Pretty much everyone follows the rules. A bad officer here basically doesn't do strip searches because they don't care about procedure. Now in the prison in my state I hear is full of corruption, and that's what's so ducked up about the whole prison system. From what other officers tell me, it's the officers that smuggle in drugs and alcohol into the prison. Is jail worse than prison because people haven't been sorted into different levels of security yet? I'm asking because my friend got roughed up in jail but is having a decent time in prison. Also, have you ever seen a ghost? Have you heard of that recent case where a man was kept in solitary for 2 years without access to a lawyer or doctor? Edit. Link. huffingtonpost.com link. How does something like that happen in a prison? Why are things like gangs and rape tolerated in prisons? Shouldn't a prison be a place where such uncivilized behavior is absolutely impossible? I read that and told some co-workers about it. It's crazy. No one understands how that could happen. We don't have solitary confinement like prisons, but we have something close to it. It's an area that houses a few inmates where they sit in their cell 23 hours a day. Every other day they can either come out for 1 hour to shower or sit on a bench handcuffed to write. I don't consider it to be like solitary confinement because in our jail your confinement this area is only like 5-45 days. In the whole you get like 6 months. In prisons. What percentage of prisoners escape using a lime in a cake? 75%? 80%? 82%. Will you bring my friend Tyrone this freshly baked homemade bread loaf please? For 20 noodles. Do any inmates actually stand at the bars of their cells screaming filthy screws over and over while raking their tin cup across the bars, or is that just in the movies? Have you worked there long enough to know what a fifi is yet? Was learning about the Stanford prison experiment part of your training? Could you comment on if you see any of this dynamic working out with guards inmates in real life? No touching? What is the strangest item you've found on an inmate's person, or in an inmate's person, in some cases? Thanks for watching this radical video. Subscribe for the best Reddit videos straight to your feed 3 times a day.